And China's President Xi Jinping agreeing to that trade truce, but are we any closer to getting the final deal done? Let's ask Erin Ennis. She's vice president of the U.S.-China Business Council, which is a nonpartisan organization, and they represent about 200 American companies doing business with China. Erin, so what's the advice to them? Full steam ahead?
Well, our advice to negotiators on both sides is, with 10% of the work left to be done, find your way forward. What we know of the outstanding issues, as Kayla just mentioned, are ones where it seems like there is a middle ground to be found if both sides are interested in finding a deal. The key right now is to figure out if that's indeed where both sides are.
Right. But, you know, I kind of go back to the business community in this, which you can sympathize with them. You know, here China was the biggest market, the biggest investment destination for so many years. It comes to a screeching halt, at least in terms of the relationship, but maybe not in reality. Are they expected to still pour investment dollars and resources into this market or not?
Well, it really depends on where your customer base is. What we hear from companies is that if your ultimate customer base was in the United States, you might be pulling out some of your investment from China to get away from the cross-border trades. And similarly, if your ultimate customer base was in China, you might be moving some production out of the United States. We actually hear from more companies, though, that are looking at doubling down on their investments in China because so many of them are doing business in that market to access Chinese customers.
Yeah, doing business in China in order to access the Chinese market. So do they also think that's a way around any further escalation of these issues? Because they're not worried about tariffs if they're saying we're not importing that material necessarily.
Well, the overall relationship between the United States and China will still be relevant because if things were to go poorly in these negotiations, American companies may become target of consumer boycotts or other efforts of that nature. The bottom line is that right now, because of the uncertainty in the relationship, many American companies are viewed as unreliable suppliers. And so right now, getting to a resolution of these issues will shore up confidence that American companies will still be able to deliver, regardless of whether they are doing that through a cross-border transaction or from within China.
Why did the president, I'm sure he would not use these words, why did the president back down on Huawei?
You know, I think that this is an issue that is a priority for the Chinese. If there are violations from Huawei that result in actions that need to be taken against it, then that needs to happen. But there was no denying that there was a lot of disruption happening in supply chains because of the speed with which the administration took this action. Our ideal goal is to keep national security and commercial issues separate. But in this case, really what needs to happen is to bring some predictability back to that situation as well.
Did the council read it as a good sign, or did your businesses say, you know what, maybe it's not so bad when Apple announced that it was going to move MacBook production to China? I mean, that seems like, you know, Tim Cook often has a line straight to the White House, and they decide to make this very, very big decision in the midst of a China trade war.
When it comes right down to it, our companies would prefer that the government stay out of how they make their business decisions, but they do have to make those decisions based on all the available information to them. So right now, I would say our companies feel like it's good that the two sides are talking. It's certainly better than having them not talking, and it's certainly better than having the threat of an additional $300 billion worth of tariffs out there. But right now, we're looking for more answers. What's the timeline for these negotiations? How serious are both sides at coming to a resolution? What happens if they can't reach an agreement on these issues? Because that $300 billion list of tariffs is still looming out there. It's just put on hold for the moment.